Here's stars to get a wire.
ഇത് നോക്കാം
I don't know. I think I should take a
I don't know.
I don't know.
Hold on, I put it on.
Yeah. The hype. Alright, so this seat down here. And then
approaches to get into colleges. Today we have Josh, welcome, Sarah, welcome, Alexis, welcome, and Anna. So we thank you for your time today, and we will all be ready to listen to you. Over to you.
Hello there. So it's nice to see all you explorers out there, as well as the parents in the back. So this presentation is for all of you. Yes, like I was saying, this presentation is for all of you. It's for the kids to learn what they have to do for college, and also for the parents. Because in a lot of people's experiences, parents, especially if you grew up in India, the college process in the US is very, very different from the college process in India. So if you're talking in the back, this might be useful for you too. So I'll hand over to Alexis to start.
Hi guys, so I'm Alexis. I'm a senior at Monroe High School right now. I'm going to go to University of Albany for cybersecurity. Some of my extracurriculars are listed up here, so I'll just give the main important ones. I ran cross country for all 4 years, and I ran as a team captain. I worked a customer service job for junior and senior year, and I have over 500 hours of community service.
Hey guys, I'm Sarah. I'm a senior at Robbinsville High School, and I'm going to be attending start this fall, and I'm going to be on the physical therapy track, and my undergraduate major will be exercise science. And some of my extracurriculars are a couple national honor societies. I was exec on a couple of the clubs in high school. I founded some clubs. I worked at Forane for the first time of high school, and then I worked as a physical therapist at a clinic. And I also had about 200 plus hours of community service and sports.
Hi, my name is Anna Maria. I'm going to Rutgers University at their Honors College in New Brunswick. What I'll be studying is cell bio and neuroscience major, but potentially a political science minor. And some extracurriculars that I did in school were our school clubs. We made a club called OSA, and also I was in EMT 2+ years, and I gathered 450 hours of service from that. And also I do like well-rounded activities like piano and Bharatanatyam. But yeah, I just had fun during high school, but also worked hard as well.
Oh, hey everyone, my name is Josh. So I'm a comp sci major, like a lot of you guys, and I'm going to Stanford University in California next year. So I went to South Brunswick High School, which is right around near Princeton area in New Jersey. At my school, I was the president of the robotics club. I was a peer leader. I played in the varsity marching band, and I'm an Eagle Scout. So without further ado, let's get into the actual stuff. Our presentation will basically be two different parts. So the first part is for the underclassmen of what you should be doing in high school to get ready for college, taking the SAT, standardized tests, classes, activities, all that fun stuff. And then the second part will be for our rising seniors, how to apply for college, how to navigate the Common App, and your most fun months of high school, which is the first half of senior year. But don't worry, it gets better.
So our first is the transcripts. So what are the factors of the college application? So your first thing is your transcript, which is your grades. Grades are really important, but it's not the most important factor, which is a common misconception between many parents. The next is test scores, like ACT, SAT, anything like that, and AP tests. Third is extracurriculars, awards, honors, and community service. This is what we had in our introduction slide, so anything you do outside of school that you would want to put on your common application. And then we have your college essay, which is a personal statement with like around 650 words. You can write about yourself, you can write about anything. This is a really, really big part of your college application, probably one of the most important factors. And then teacher recommendation letters. So our first is transcript. The first part is picking your classes. So you have multiple types of options when picking your classes. There are the regular standard option, which are the normal classes that have no impact on GPA. They don't raise, they don't have anything like that. They don't do anything to weight your GPA. Next we have your honors classes. These are the classes that are a bit more challenging, but they will boost your GPA in the end. And then we have dual enrollment.
Yeah, so dual enrollment is basically when you take classes that can later count as college credit when you apply for college. So for example, I went to a vocational school where medicine was the priority, and so I took courses like anatomy and physiology and med-term. And those classes will allow for me to get college credit later when I go to Rutgers. So I would suggest checking with your high school to see if you can go into such a program. And it makes things easier because you'll come into college with a lot of credit.
I'm also taking a dual enrollment class right now. It's Honors College Marketing, and AP classes are also really important, and these are classes that you can take for college credit if you pass the AP exam. The lowest you can get is a 3, 4, or 5 to pass and get the credit. A lot of people take dual enrollment because there's no AP exam, you just have to get a certain score in the class. You don't have to take an exam at the end of the year.
Yeah, so just one thing to add on to that. So dual enrollment courses are really good because when you go to college, if you take a lot of APs and dual enrollments, I know some of my friends are actually going into college as quote-unquote sophomores instead of freshmen because they have enough credits to basically skip an entire year of college. So for the parents in the back, that can actually save you a lot of money when you're going to college because you're basically skipping a year. For APs too, some APs are a lot easier than others. So if you're in high school right now, you probably know that. Like, I know a lot of people say psych is a pretty easy AP, and there are other APs that are even past like second, third, fourth year of college. Like, I know I took AP Latin, and that was one of the most hardest classes I've ever taken. And the College Board says it's equivalent to a fourth year Latin class in college. So before you take an AP class, make sure you check out the College Board website so you know exactly what curriculum it'll be covering. But there are a lot of good classes like chemistry and physics that cover a good foundation for college physics and college chem.
And also, one more thing to add, I know APs like boost your GPA and everything, but don't go and add all your classes APs just for GPA booster. Also try to focus on what you're looking for, and especially if you're going into something in the STEM field, try to max out all the APs in math and science, and don't focus on all art, psych, all the stuff you don't need. And yeah, be smart about making your schedules.
So our next slide is picking your classes. For that, everyone just takes classes in various different fields. Like, I know during my first 3 years of high school, I took classes in various fields. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I took anatomy, I took computer science, I took business classes, I took everything. And after those 2 years, when you're in 11th and 12th grade, which is our juniors and seniors, we would recommend trying to specialize in any field that you think you want to go in. Because colleges really want to see that you're taking classes in, so you have a little prior knowledge on whatever you're majoring in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, when you go to college, a ton of people change their majors to completely different fields. So just picking something that you want to focus on in high school is really good for your college application, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it for the rest of your life. That's not really what it is.
I'm a cybersecurity major once again. I took AP Computer Science A, I took AP Computer Science Principles, and I took AP Statistics, which are 3 really important classes for cybersecurity majors. We have listed all the AP classes and AP tests that you can take. There are 38 in total. AP tests happen in the first 2 weeks of March or May. So as you can see, there are a lot of options that you can pick from.
And don't take all of these. You're not going to be able to.
Alright, so now we're going to start with 9th grade. Do we have any freshmen here? I know it's pretty early. So first off, we can talk about extracurriculars. So when you first get into high school, you want to try a bunch of stuff. Most high schools have a club fair, so definitely attend one of those and see what clubs they offer. So for instance, my freshman year, I knew I wanted to do something with community service, so fortunately my school had a Red Cross chapter, and so I joined that, tried it out, and I really liked it, and I stuck with it for 4 years. But on the other hand, there was Science Olympiad, I tried it maybe 1 year, and I didn't really like it. But that's the best part of freshman year. You can experiment with the different clubs and see which ones you want to stick with later on. So definitely try to follow what you're passionate about so that you can see what exactly interests you about your career path. And then as Josh said, you can always change later on. So volunteering. Volunteering is pretty important, not just to fulfill your high school environment, but it gives you a sense of purpose. And you can also tie in your interests with it to see how you would like to impact your world when you grow up. So volunteer hours usually they count at the beginning the 8th grade summer, and you want to aim around 100 plus hours. But again, this depends on your high school. My high school only required 40 hours. So just check with your guidance counselor and see how many hours you need. But also choose something that you want to be passionate about. You don't want to go into something for volunteering that you're not really going to spend much time and effort into, because then it's going to feel like a waste. So maybe like a food bank, hospitals, just find out what you would want to do with your time. And this is where hours with a few activities and then build up with those few activities to get the hours that you need, exactly how many hours you have gotten, and you also saying that, oh yeah, this person did this many hours, just so you have some official documentation for when you apply for college. So examples of community service like tutoring, hospitals, food bank. I know my friend did like the community food bank of New Jersey. I did EMS. There's many different ways to volunteer.
All right, come on, do I have any sophomores in the house? Raise your hand or clap it up. Yeah, all right. Okay, so now you're getting into your sophomore year. You sort of know what clubs you enjoy doing. You might drop a few, which is completely fine, because year is kind of, for us that was our COVID year, by the way, but you have to kind of focus on what you want to do later on. So, this is the year that you have the first chance to take the PSAT. So this is not the actual SAT, it's a shorter version, and the score doesn't matter for anything. So you can't really send this to a college at all. But it's a really good practice to see how you hold up in like a test environment, spending like 2 hours on multiple choice questions with the proctor in the room, seeing how your test anxiety is if you have that. So it's really important. The highest score you can get is 15, 20. But you have to remember that this doesn't impact anything. So if you take the PSAT in 10th grade, it can't tell you and it also can't grade you. So it's a good opportunity to see how you do on the real SAT.
Also, going for the PSAT as a 10th grader, I'd say don't study for anything, don't practice anything, and use it as a baseline. So you can take this test going in completely blind, see what you get, and based off of that, you can see your weaknesses, see your strengths. And when you're studying for the actual SAT, you can work on strengthening the certain aspects you actually need.
All right, yeah. So now that you're in 10th grade, though, you kind of have to start figuring out what your actual extracurriculars are going to be. Because especially if you want to get a leadership position later on, or put a lot of time into one thing, you want to find the stuff that you really enjoy, and then go really deep into it, because that is what colleges like to see, and that's also just good for you as a person if you want to grow in a specific field. So, the real questions that people usually ask are, oh, how many ECs do I need and which ones? So we'll talk later about the Common App, but what you need to know about that is that you can only list up to 10 activities on your college application. So that means doing a bunch of little things is not going to help you in the end, because you're going to have to cut off number 11 through 20, for example. So it's really good to show long-term commitment to like 3 or 4 things. Another 4 to 6 can be like smaller activities that you do on the side for fun. So for me, that was stuff like robotics and Boy Scouts that were really important to me and that I've done for like years and years. And in robotics, I was president, so that like leadership experience shows that you're committed to that club. So you can see a little bold over there is quality over quantity. So that's the first thing I want to emphasize. And the second thing is, as Anna said, you want to have clubs that are related to your career goals. So if you want to go into business later on, FBLA and YECA are good clubs to join. A STEM field, Science Olympiad, a bunch of different events. No, Anna didn't find that so fun, but I love the Science Olympiad, so I think that's a really good club to join too if you're interested. And then if you're on the humanities side, Model UN and you know, Cool Club, Youth and Government, all that stuff is really good to join. So, now that you're in your 10th grade summer, after 10th grade, not before, it's the best time to start for you to take the SAT or ACT for the first time. And we'll talk more about those tests later. But if you start in the summer of your sophomore year, then you have basically all of your junior year to retake the test if you want to get better, increase your score, etc.
And yeah, one more thing about how do you get these leadership positions in the clubs that you're joining? Start as a general member and show interest in that. So as a general member, you can reach out to your advisor, your teacher advisor of the club, and bring up some ideas that you have, and then maybe the current council can get those launched. But it's important to show interest as a general member, and that way the teacher can remember you as a potential candidate for future leadership positions. So don't stop at being a general member. Continue and reach for more.
Okay. Okay. 11th grade. Okay, so 11th grade, I think it's some juniors here. So 11th grade, the most dreaded year, sadly. But 11th grade focus is mostly, I think now at this point, you're trying to focus more on what your actual major is in college. And you're trying to narrow down what you're trying to do in the future. So definitely with clubs in the past, you were trying to explore a little bit more. So now you're trying to get more into it and involved and leadership positions for the more important clubs and the ones that will look better on your resume and your transcript and all your Common App stuff in the future. And I'd say also for this is also scheduling with your counselors. Focus on picking classes that are more helpful for you in the future. Don't trade classes. Try to take classes that will actually, at least more honors classes. During the beginning of the year, focus on relationships with your teacher. Because by the end of the junior year, right before summer starts, you have to go and ask your closest teachers and people you share the best relationships with for some letters of recommendation. And colleges allow you to submit 2 to 3 recommendation letters. And these are actually very helpful because the school gets to get input from a teacher that's known you for years and how you are as a student, as a peer, a mentor, just school in general. And I know when you submit them, you don't get to see the letters that your teachers submit because they submit it straight to the college. But knowing that, you would want to pick a teacher that you have a good relationship with, so you know that they're ready to about you, and it makes you look better. And then a big one is standardized tests. So we have SAT and ACT, and this is pretty much the reason why everyone hates junior year. But the thing with this is that it's all just practice. It's really, I took the SAT, but I'd say at first definitely take one ACT and one SAT, because SAT is, you have more time, and it's a math and English split. Typically, the math is relatively easier, but then the English is a lot more tough. But not in the sense where it's you have to be smart tough, they try to trick you with simple questions. So that's why it comes back to just you have to keep practicing and practicing. Many people try taking a couple courses, but I'd say the courses are really, really expensive. It's not really necessary. If you can score a minimum of 1,300 on your own, it's no need to pay for classes, because then after that it's just practice and practice to get those nitpicky small little errors. But that's another option. But Alexis can talk more about ACT because I didn't really take that.
So I took the ACT. I took it 3 times, twice during my junior year and once in the beginning of my senior year. The ACT is different from the SAT, in which it has the science section. And I know a lot of you guys might be a little frightened by that, because a lot of people tend to stay away from science, but it's not science in the biology type of way. It's more of reading graphs and tables and being able to analyze data. So it's not as scary as it seems. It still has other grammar, writing, reading, and math sections. We have a sample science question up here if you wanted to look at it, but the ACT is also a little bit longer than the SAT. The test that I took, the total amount of time was around 4 hours, but then it's with the break included. It's a little bit longer than the SAT.
Also, both these tests are scored differently as well, but when you're applying to college, there's you can book here, you can see how like, even though it's technically a science question, you don't really need to know science. It's kind of like comprehension because you can read the question and like, I'm so bad with chemistry, so even I can figure this out. Like, you kind of see, notice the pattern in the chart, and like that's how you can get the answers. Like that's the same thing with SAT and like just like standardized tests in general. Like don't worry if you don't notice something exactly at first. Like if I saw that P203, I get a little nervous. But there's no need to because there's always something, you can always break it down and it's like no simple. This is a big one. Especially because of COVID now, a lot of schools have become test optional. So this has reduced a lot of the stress for like standardized tests in general. Isn't a bad test schools are very important. When I'm at like a PT clinic right now, college admissions officers all over and looking at your standardized test score and activities and leader scores as well. So really just like don't beat yourself up about grades because they're becoming a lot more, like standardized tests are becoming more and more obsolete. But still you should care about them, but don't like freak out. Okay, I think I talked about this before. Really studying. Junior year, when you take your like PSAT again, this time it matters. I don't think it doesn't matter at all. This one, if you get a bad score, it still doesn't go anywhere. But if you do get a good score, you could qualify for the National Merit Scholarship. And this, I think, in your school, is very, very, very selective. Only a couple people get it, but you have a chance of getting it, and you can get money for college. And once again, doing poorly doesn't affect you at all.
Yeah, so if you look at the score on the top, you need at least a 1500. And remember, this score it's scored out of 1520. So you can lose as much as 20 points only out of 1500. So you can see it's very selective. I mean, it's also by state. So like in like Louisiana or Wyoming, the score to qualify is a lot lower. But in New Jersey, we're pretty competitive out here. So you're going to do pretty good to advance. But it's a $2,500 scholarship. And if you have a connection to a company, you can get more than that a little bit. So it's pretty good to prepare for college and have that little cushion for paying for it.
Yeah, and definitely check with your parents' employers because I know a friend whose parents work at Novartis, which is a farm tech company, and they were able to give him much more than the 2,500. I think around like in 100 grand. So definitely check to see if you can access that.
100 grand.
'11th grade summer. This is like when you're researching for like the college you want to go to, and I'd say start going on tours for college now, because now you can start getting a sense of like if you like city vibe or like the more suburban vibe or like a bigger college, smaller campus, and like just going around and touring really makes a big difference. Because at first you may not know what you're into, like what you like or like vibe with, but it really gives you insight. And you can also see like college life and like just people around. But I'd also say try to go during the school year too, because you can really see all the students. Because during summer a lot of people go home. But yeah, touring's nice.
Yeah, also if you go during the school year, a lot of schools give you an excused absence for college visits. So I mean, if you want to skip school, it's a free excuse too.
And then also another thing, try to look for jobs and internships this summer. Because the last job at the physical therapy clinic. Biggest thing that my
up to like 40,000 students at most, probably. That is a lot of people. Or you could do a more private, smaller institution, which could be up to 10,000 kids, around a smaller amount of number of people. University of Albany is a public state school, so it's definitely not as big as Rutgers or any of the other schools, but it's one of the state universities of New York, so it is pretty big. The next one is environment. The people you want to surround yourself with, you could choose a Catholic institution or any public research university. And last, but definitely not least, is cost. I know this is definitely a big one, probably more for my parents. But focusing on scholarships, applying to scholarships, any awards that you could think you could get, they're definitely not a waste of time. And if you have, I would definitely recommend applying for some scholarships, applying for any awards that you can get.
All right, so now a pretty big topic, especially among the Indian community too, is selective admissions. Because in pretty much every college in the country during COVID and post-COVID, admissions rates have gone down across the board. So this was the acceptance rate for this year, so our class for Harvard College has gone down to 3.41%. So that means out of maybe 100 people, at most 4 get in, which is honestly crazy that they reject 96 out of every 100 people that apply. So if you're applying to schools like this, you have to think a whole different ball game. And so this kind of like a little graph here from the Ivy League acceptance rates from 2007 to 18. And you can see, like, with the exception of Dartmouth a little bit, all of them have gone down. I didn't include COVID because of the test optional stuff that Sarah mentioned. The rates fluctuate a little bit, but now we're kind of out of the pandemic, they're going down again, which is great. Yeah, but how do you prepare for college, like an overall aspect? Because I think this is what a lot of people need to know. So, if you applied to college 20 years ago, the thing you probably hear from people is, all right, you need to get a good GPA, a good SAT score, get good grades, and take hard classes. Which is true, it's still true today. But because of how the acceptance rates are getting, you have to do more than that. So before COVID, you might have heard of this concept of a spike. And a spike is basically, so we've all heard of well-rounded kids. And there are a lot of well-rounded kids. There's nothing wrong with being well-rounded. But the problem is, when a college is choosing a class, an incoming class of 2,000 among like 40,000 high school seniors in the United States that they get applications from, being well-rounded just isn't enough to get in. So before COVID, you might have heard about a spike, which is doing something really, really crazy in just one area. This could be like doing research or placing high in an Olympiad or science Olympiad or something like that. But doing something really crazy allows you to neglect your other stuff a little bit, so like you don't have to be well-rounded on everything, but you need a spike in one singular area. But that was pre-COVID, and now we're out of COVID, and the acceptance rates have gone down more. So that means there is a third layer that you need to add to your application, and it's the schools that you're shooting from. And I get a little drum roll. There we go. So the last layer is, what's your story? Yay! Round of applause. You're jumping out of your seat. Well, let me explain what this story is. So this is kind of a little clip art of a politician. Because at this point in the college admissions process, that is what your job is. Your job is to get the vote of the admissions officer on the admissions committee. Because the admissions process, basically this whole committee of like 20 or so people that read all the applications from different areas. And then they vote on whether to send your application to the next round. If you pass the vote, then your application is done. So basically, you have to figure out how to play a politician and get the vote of the admissions officer. And every politician has a good story. And that's kind of what we have to develop now with Forane. So there's two things to figure out with a story, the how and the why. The reason to have a story is you want your extracurriculars, classes, and volunteering to build up and show something. So if you're a politician, that would be like what you campaigned on, what legislation you're going to pass, and stuff like that. But for you, it'll be the classes you took, the extracurriculars, what volunteer programs you did. The speaker doesn't like me. But you basically have to remember that you can be any applicant though. You don't have to be an applicant in computer science, structural engineering, or be a doctor. You can get into these schools on anything, as long as you're focused and you build a story around that thing. So in a few slides, I'll tell you what my story was. But the idea is to create a connection between what you do in high school and what you want to do in college. So the admissions officer can clearly see what their vote will do to the college community. So the first thing is the how. You can see these are kind of two sample students we have here. One is Priyanka and one is Jared. So Priyanka took CSP and CSA, got 4s, is in the Tech Honor Society, Coding Club, multiple hackathon awards, taught coding at a local library, and was fluent in Python and Java. So Jared, he's also a comp sci major. He got 5s in Lit and US history, volunteered at the hospital, did the debate club, was actually pretty skilled in Latin dance and did research on the environmental effects of pollution. So if you were admissions officer, who do you think you'd pick? Raise your hand for Priyanka. All right. And raise your hand for Jared. Okay, yes, I think the majority of you picked Priyanka. That probably was because she's a comp sci major and all of her time was spent on comp sci. And you can see, even though she did a little bit worse on her EPs, so like Jared got 5s, Priyanka got 4s, she would still be a preferable applicant because colleges can tell she cares about comp sci. So this kind of be the example of building a focus spike. But now the story part is showing the background to it, showing why you genuinely care about the field and aren't in it for the money or the prestige. So this was kind of my story. It's not my picture, by the way, it's a picture on Google Images. So we kind of lived through COVID, and I noticed how, like, with the advent of TikTok, people were spending more and more time on their phones. And if you look at the politics around you, you can see like lots of misinformation, lots of stuff about masks and vaccines that are going around, some of which is true, some of which is not true. And that was really having a real impact on society. And I could see that impacting my school around me. Like when you go hang out with your friends and you spend half the time on your phone scrolling, whereas you don't really talk to them. And that's something that is impactful to our generation. And they can see my PCs, and we'll talk about it in the comment app too, build up to that story. And I think that's one of the big things that appeals to an admissions officer. When you're dealing with these 3-4% acceptance rates, you need a story that shows how your life led up to this point. And it doesn't have to be all like what actually happened. You're allowed to embellish a little bit and reflect on what happened in your past. And everybody embellishes in their podcast days. Don't make things up, of course. But if things happen in your life that could contribute to your peak, just reflect and think about what happened in your past, what happened in your life that you might just be forgetting. And that's why when you're for freshmen and sophomores, it might be good to write things down whenever something big or impactful happens to you. Even if it's something as small as like drama in your friendships or relationships, that's something you can put in colleges, and a lot of people do and are successful. So that's kind of our third layer for post-COVID admissions.
Okay, so for comments, basically like a website, and this is like the website you'll pretty much buy all of your colleges on. You put all your extracurriculars, you put like the 10 things, your 10 main extracurriculars, you put all your jobs, you literally put your entire past 4 years application, and from this website alone, you can submit on each website. It's pretty annoying, but it's okay, only one school. I know there are a couple others.
You're joining next year.
Oh, never mind. Won't have to worry.
You guys have
Won't have to worry about that anymore. But there's like some other schools, but you'll see when you're applying. It's honestly pretty self-explanatory. It tells you whatever you can do. And like, if you want help, I know my counselors, they walk through all the seniors at a meeting on how to use the whole website. But yeah, I don't think there's really much more to say about it. That's the website. So you put that back, never mind. But this is like an example of a 10 activities max. And you pretty much, each thing's like a drop down. You can add in, type in whatever you want, and then get as specific as you want or as broad as you want. But that's pretty much, you just like add everything in one by one. It takes quite a while. It's pretty tedious, but it's pretty simple.
And when you're describing your activities, you only get like it's a really small word count. So definitely start every description description with like command words, so like led, started initiative. That really, because the application, the people who read the application don't have a lot of time to look at your application, so definitely just like pick the most important ones and describe it in the most important way.
And definitely from the start with their most important thing, the most impressive thing that you've done, and get less and less impressive by the end, because it's pretty much how you get a first impression of someone. It's the first thing you see, the first thing you grasp, first thing you remember, and that's exactly how applications work as well. Always start with the best thing, always put your best foot forward, and like try to grasp their attention from the very start.
So for the parents, this is kind of like a resume or a LinkedIn page. You have the title and you have the description. So this is an example. This is an example from this is what I put for Boy Scouts. So basically on the top, they have like a drop-down menu of the different types of things you can do. So you can make a common account right now. Just keep in mind you'll make a new one come August. Yeah, so it opens in August 1st, the August before your senior year. You're allowed to make it whenever you want and kind of play around with the application. Just make a new one come August 1st.
And you can see here, like the word counts are very like they're 100 characters max for like the organization name membership. 150 for like describing it. 150 is like very, very few.
Yeah, so for me, I was in an Eagle Scout camp and I applied to college, so I put Life Scout, and then I put the best award I got in Boy Scouts, and then something I did to help the troop. So those are three things I kind of, you're allowed to use abbreviations too, of course. They'll understand, they're not old people. But they'll be able to understand what you say. Just make sure to communicate what you want to communicate. That view.
Quick comment. Okay, also on Common App, you have up to 5 awards and honors, and this can include local recognition, state recognition, national recognition, or international. And it's the same thing as before, like put the most impressive at the beginning, and then like put the other ones after. And this you can like include like honor societies, any awards you got school-wide, like any like club awards, and then if you're like any extracurricular athletic school. Like Boy Scouts probably get awards, stuff like that.
This is an example of one of my awards. This was a Science Olympiad tournament I did. So you can see it's a pretty easy section for awards. It's not as much writing as the positions are, but unfortunately you don't get really a chance to describe your awards. So that means if you earned any reputable awards that the admissions officers would know about, like I put Science Olympiad, that's probably something you put first because they know what it is immediately. So I put 11th in national. That's really all they ask for the award section of each one.
So the next section is your college essay. So here we have two people, another comparison. So first we have Jordan Shaw. His GPA, he has a 3.93. He got a perfect score on his SAT. He has 2 subject tests and a couple of extracurriculars. He's leading with some of those extracurriculars too. He has a couple of awards. He's an AP scholar. He's got a couple of other awards. And then we have Athena Smithman. She has a 399. 1570 on her SAT and a 35 on her ACT. The ACT is at a 36, by the way. She's got a couple of SAT subject tests, which we don't take anymore, but they used to be taken. She's got a few extracurriculars, which she's the captain, president, and vice president of. She's got a couple of awards as well, so both of these are people, very accomplished people, clearly. Who would you guys pick? So, if you guys think you would pick Jordan Shaw, can you raise your hand? No one? Why? I see. Okay, Sarah. And if you guys would pick Athena, can you raise your hand? Okay, a couple more hands. Okay.
So basically, this kind of show that both of these are really, really good candidates. And what we're trying to prove right now is that they both got really good scores, really good extracurriculars, and just really good background in general. But like, what's going to make them different is their college essay.
usually Common App. All colleges used to require, but some of them don't require anymore, but it's definitely recommended that you write them. A lot of colleges require supplementals, which are separate essays, separate from your main essay. They can be specific personal statements. They can ask specific questions. They can ask, some of these examples are, why do you want to go to Colgate University? Or what makes you a good fit for Berkeley? So for these types of supplementals, you would have to do a little bit more research on the specific college you're going to. So for any supplementals that I was thinking about doing, I had to go to the college website, see what their core values were, see what specific programs or anything like that. Something that stood out to me, that one, I did my research, and two, I'm a good fit and I definitely interested in the college. Good essays take time and rewrite after rewrite. So I know I started writing my college essay July of junior year, or right after junior year. I probably rewrote my essay over 5 times. I spent so many hours, so much time. I asked so many people to revise it. Your college essay, in my opinion, is probably like the most important part of your entire application. This shows who you are as a person, who you are. It's your personal statement. This is the most important thing. So a little bit about the essay. They have specific prompts, but you don't have to choose any of them. You can fully write about anything you want. Like I wrote about weights at the gym. As long as you tie it back to you, tie it back to who you are, what you believe in, what your morals are, I think that's what's important. You can write about passion, intellectual curiosity, your identity, overcoming obstacles, and the main thing is to just show what makes you unique, what makes you special, like why you think you should be, what makes you you. Anything in a person's statement.
Yeah, I mean, my essay was about making. Yeah, so my essay was about baking brownies, and that's really nothing related to my comp sci major. But the whole point of the essay is to show who you are. I mean, if you go back to my politician analogy, your Common App essay would be like your stump speech, your campaign to everybody. Every college is pretty much the same college essay. You can copy and paste, and Common App lets you submit the same essay everywhere. And your supplementals are like the speeches you give to specific people. Like, if I'm a politician in California and like New Jersey, I would give different speeches about like what they care about. So the same thing here, supplementals, you gotta look at what the college cares about, what their values are, and what they're looking for in their own student body. And you have to tailor those essays to that.
Also, just for like the college essay, just like have fun with it, be creative, add your personality, make it funny, add some jokes here and there. I did mine about a joke book. We can do it about anything. But like, this was the first essay I've ever written that wasn't like the cookie cutter, like intro, body paragraph, conclusion. Like, you can do any format you want, and they will accept it as long as it's under 650 words. And honestly, the more unique and different it is, like the more eye-catching it is for them too, because they receive thousands and thousands of cookie cutter like essays about leadership and just like basic stuff like that. Try to find something very, very tiny, but like unique to specifically you. Try to stay away from like the really, really basic stuff. Oh yeah, we're open to sharing our essays with anyone if you want to reach out later on.
And I can't stress this enough, but I feel like the Common App essay is where you talk about yourself right now. Don't really spend so much time talking about your future or like the person you want to become, but talk about who you are as an individual right now. And so I wrote my essay on how my hands are the most important part of me, and that's something that's very general, but then I was able to twist it and talk about how that connects to my passion for medicine later on. But I would say don't say like I want to be a doctor in your Common App essay, for example. Write about who you are and why you're the student that they want to accept.
Alright, so we're almost done here. We'll get through these slides pretty quickly. This is an important one. ChatGPT. Trust me, ChatGPT, I work in the AI space. ChatGPT is a wonderful writer. It writes essays better than I do, better than half of us do. But college essays are not about how good a writer you are. Like, I can't stress this enough. You can be a pretty bad writer because your lit teacher will revise it, your counselor will revise it, your parents even might look at it. And my mom's over there. But like, they'll fix the grammar mistakes, they'll make it clear and everything. The most important part of the essay is something that ChatGPT can't copy, and it's that like a part of you that makes you unique. Because ChatGPT is the opposite of unique. Yeah, it's your inner voice. However, there is a but there, and you are allowed to copy a lot of supplemental essays between colleges. So the one essay you can't copy is the why Berkeley or why Colgate. But if they ask an essay about like what was your favorite extracurricular or what do you want to do in the future, that is literally, you can 100% copy paste that from college to college. They're not going to see each other's essays, and it saves a ton of time. I would highly recommend that. But don't use ChatGPT.
Teacher recommendations. It's an important part, but you know, we did talk about the essay, so we'll just quickly go over this. So teacher recommendations, most of the app that you just submitted so far is about you, but it's from your own perspective. Teacher recommendations is where other people can talk about you and certify that what you had talked about is really true. So it's usually your sophomore or junior year teachers, because they're the ones that will know you the best. Senior year, you just met them. And it's usually someone who knows you the best. So someone who knows you as a student, yes, but also as a future worker in whatever field you go to. So there's two different categories you can ask. So you can ask your STEM teacher or your humanities teacher. And you want to also try to add like an extracurricular recommendation. So I had a research internship that I went to, so I asked the person who supervised my research. But definitely try and get to know your teachers on a deeper level.
All right, interviews. This is the last part of the application process. After you submit your application, you may or may not get called for an interview. Some colleges don't even do interviews because of the number of applicants they get. And getting an interview or not really has no bearing on whether you get into a college usually. So interviews are just like alumni of the college where you can come on Zoom or you'll be in the coffee shop and you'll basically have a normal conversation about anything. It doesn't have to be your college major. It can literally be like what your morning routine is. My interview was about it was stuff about politics because that's what I like to talk about and I'm good at talking about that. So you can kind of steer the conversation towards that. Your interviewer is someone that wants to help you get in. They're not your like enemy or some representative of the college. They want you to get in and they'll write a little note sheet to the college. So number one rule of interviews is like one thing you have to know is like, who knows who that is? Yeah, it's a Minecraft villager and it's also known as an NPC. So the number one rule of interviewing is don't be an NPC. Be a normal person. Like how are you around your friends? That is what you want to be. So don't be him. The only thing you really have to prepare for in an interview is the first question they'll ask, which is tell me about yourself. And that's true for any interview. Everything else will kind of flow like a normal conversation with your friends. That's really important.
I'd say if you're going for an interview, have like an elevator pitch ready. Have a quick, maybe 30 to 60 second like summary of you. Like try to include the most important aspects about you, and it's something that can give them like a really good first impression. And also back to letters of credit, this I know passed a while ago. It doesn't have to be from a teacher. You can also get letters of credit from employers or someone out of school that has some importance in their life.
So our next one is financial aid. Once again, this is more for the parents than anything, but don't let your financial aid deter you from applying. So I understand college is really, really expensive, but there are a lot of opportunities that you can take to lower those costs. Financial aid, you have to apply for FAFSA. This is also more for the parents in general, which is applying for financial aid. Everybody needs to apply for FAFSA regardless of your income, regardless of anything. Everybody has to fill out the form. Colleges will give you merit-based aid or need-based aid. So need-based aid is more for lower income families, where merit is more based off your academics, based find private scholarships related to your interests. So this would be scholarships, awards, anything that we mentioned before.
Okay, for specialized programs, you could have MD, PA, PT, dental, pharmacy, law, there's many, many more. And for these, I just say to summarize it, look for like shadowing jobs, look for jobs in that field. And these, the benefit of direct programs is that you won't have to apply again as an undergrad, and you get like direct admission straight through. So I got into the PIT physical therapy direct program. When I was researching about PhD, I found out that their program is ranked #1 in the nation. So then because of that, I worked towards that, got my shadowing hours at the PT clinic, got a job there, worked around with like different patients and like explored the field and was exposed to that way. And because of that, I really think that's what made me stand out for the PT program. So straight through for 7 years, I'll come out with the program, and it really is helpful, and it will be better.
So quick, but there are programs. Check the college that you're going to. For example, at Rutgers, they have a program to their med school after your sophomore year. So definitely check to see like if there are programs that you can apply to after you get into undergrad. Okay, I can't stress this enough because I know a lot of parents talk about the BSMD programs, but there are other options besides BSMD, and the journey is over here. If you get into a BSMD, you can get into, but at the same time, it does not stop you if you get a rejection to go into medical school or law school or you want to go, so just check. And also ask yourself, so read up on, there's some books you can read up on. Resources at your college. Did you go out of your way to get internships, research, how stacked your LinkedIn is? So, yeah.
Anymore. Your literal dead weights on our high school.